my poor students were trying to fall asleep on me.
Is he here? Yeah, listen, I don't know. I'm just happy it's light out when I leave work.
That part I agree with.
And like this afternoon when I left work, I was like, has it been like this all day?
I know, right? It's gorgeous, isn't it?
Beautiful out
It's
here.
beautiful.
And we know that we have sound.
Okay.
Ready?
Yes.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. It is 4:55 and we're calling the meeting of the Howard Go Team to order. And we will do our roll call. Principal Hollis.
Present.
Mr. Brooks. I think I saw you up there.
On Zoom.
I'm here, sorry.
Mr. Miss Eldery.
Present.
Me. Dr. Bryant.
Present.
Miss Nolan.
Present.
Miss Moore.
Present.
And Miss Patel told us she would be out. And Mr. Baker.
Present.
And Mr. Anglin.
Present.
And we have a quorum. Our first order of business is approval of the agenda. Are there any additions to the agenda? All right, hearing none, I will take a motion to approve the agenda as printed and published.
Motion. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, and then we'll approve the minutes from the February 11th meeting.
With Miss Moore's updates. She had 3 updates that you sent the day after. They were just like typos.
Yep. From when you were out?
Yep.
Yes.
No, not when I was out.
Oh.
The meeting minutes from last meeting, you sent 3 typo errors.
Yes,
So that-
yes,
That's
yes.
it. Those
Sorry.
are the only updates I got.
Okay, any additional updates?
No.
Hearing none, we will- feel like I don't remember that.
I felt like a long time ago.
Approval of the February 11th meeting minutes with the updates as pointed out by Ms. Moore. I need a motion. Second,
I'll second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? All right, and that passes. And then our next, after discussion, of course, is our budget approval. And so we'll move into the presentation of the final budget.
Hollis Search DTH FY 26.
Okay, can everyone see? Yes, you can, because I can see it on my screen. Okay. Nope. All right, so that was the agenda that you just approved today. Our norms are as they always are. Only Go Team members can speak outside of public comment, and I do not think we have one today. We invite and welcome contributions from everyone at the table to listen to each other, follow the agenda as noticed to the public, and stay on task, and respect each other's ideas and assume good intentions. We are in the final phase of this Go Team budget process and must vote today. All right, so during this Go Team meeting, we're going to review the components of the budget, what updates we have based on the feedback from the cluster superintendent and any other key leaders. And then at the end of this portion of the meeting, we will take action by voting on the FY26 budget. Why we are presenting any final recommendations that were given, and this must be done after staffing conferences, but before the so because of the concerns that we lifted about access to money, I requested access to $43,912 that was granted. And this isn't an addition to the initial bucket. It is access to the reserves, based on the fact that since I have been here, we have met our projected enrollment. And so we were granted this amount. What are we doing with that money is just adding access to one in-person substitute, which we would not need until the school year starts. So in the event that we do not get enrollment, then we may not get in-person sub. So, you know, we can track how enrollment goes over the course of the summer. And then make that determination of how to move, because that's not a position that I need in place day one or like right now, since hiring season has already started.
And that's just someone in school who can fill in where needed.
Yes, that's what we have currently. Like since COVID, with the CARES budget, schools have been allocated 2 in-person subs per school for the past 4 years.
It's tough to lose that.
It is very tough to lose that. And with all of the people being sick, with the flu and COVID and RSV and allergies, and no one knows what's going on, it has been beneficial to have our in-person subs. We oftentimes talk about the cost of teachers going up, but the cost of subs has gone up dramatically since 2021 to 2021 to now, post-COVID, and over the summer increases with sub costs as, you know, per day, they cost us more per day. And so that is how I utilize some of the.
And that was on your list of how you were going to use it if, anyways, so we had already talked about that as a potential. You're just getting access to it potentially
earlier.
sooner.
Okay. I kind of feel like we started having, I'm looking at the teachers, like flu, COVID, like rampant starting like September. It didn't start like with winter months. And so I do think it could be beneficial to have from day one. We might not necessarily utilize them in that space for like subs, because, you know, those are critical days. So normally everybody comes those first days, but that's also acclimating them to the environment, the rules of the school, and we can utilize them to make sure that everyone knows where they're going, or no, we will not allow you to just roam around, you know, to kind of just set the climate for the school. So here's still the breakdown, and this is just numerically of the budget by function. The next page will show the breakdown as well. As you can see, we're still hovering around 82% of our money still being spent in instruction directly in the classroom, direct touch points with children.
And they stated that schools that are using greater percentage for instruction are feeling it a little bit more. So since we are a school that does use that, that's why we are feeling it more.
Yeah, we don't have a lot of outside of the classroom staff, which is why we lean on parents to volunteer for the tardy desk, or if we need help passing out perfect attendance treats, people come during lunch. So we do lean on parents to kind of assist us with that, because everybody's attached to a classroom for the most part.
And just to confirm, parents who donate for PTA or foundation or sports, you cannot donate to hire staff. Is that correct? Like a APS employee?
I think that gets very fuzzy. I feel like at some point in time, maybe somebody did try to do that.
I don't think
many
it's-
moons back, but it's not normal practice.
Right. I don't think it is currently allowed. So that's why it's like, no matter how much you donate, we can't help out from a staffing standpoint. That's why what we get from the district is really important, because there's that balance, from my
Well,
understanding as well.
Absolutely, but that also helps us to say, I don't have to put as much care and concern about I can't offer the educational software.
Right.
Because I know the parents will help fill that gap. And I can feel confident in spending 82% on instruction and not say, well, we really need Common Lit, especially because we're having these standards and we're supposed to be merging writing and reading all together. I don't have to say, well, we won't have that tool. I'm sorry, because, I hire 82%. I can say, hey, parents, this is what we're using the money on. And so you're still getting a good use in the funds versus using it in other ways. All right, so we are at discussion and question, not that we didn't have questions before. I will put it back on whichever slide you would like. And the end of this slide deck is the appendix from what we approved for the draft. So
I had some
I
other
can go
questions
to
about the
any other
budget.
slide that you would like.
If anybody else wants, does anybody else want to ask a question? I'll
Not,
have someone.
yeah, are you gonna,
You want me to go to what page?
well, no, this is.
This is from last time.
Yeah, that's all from last time.
This breakdown, I had a question about that breakdown.
Which breakdown?
The table of the positions, that one. When we talked about this, when I went back and looked to the January presentation, it looks like our special education teachers increased. Are we expecting more students? I think we had like 14 we were given, but that's 19 that we're
So
given.
that's special education teachers, including our regional unit teachers as well. And if you continue to look down the list, it was already there.
Okay, I didn't see 14. I saw like the paraprofessionals and the GNET. But what units do we have? We have an MOID unit, an EBD unit.
Say what those are for the people who, I don't know what that means.
We have MOID, moderately intellectually disabled. We have 2 autism units. We have 1 emotional behavioral disorder unit, which is EBD, and we have 1 ETS, which is emotional therapeutic support. But I think the way that it was noted on the one and the allocations, it just both said EBD.
Okay, because I saw that's a lot of support services that we provide. 19 is when we have 44 middle school teachers and 19 special education teachers. We have a great support system, I think, here for our students with special needs, it appears. Do we have enough? So these are not ones you were added. Were these ones, because there's allocated and added, and it just seems like there's a difference
These
from
are all
January.
allocated.
These are all allocated. Okay, that's what I was wondering, if you added more or if you were, okay. Do you feel?
I did not, well, people can't see me or hear me. I did not add any special education teachers.
Okay. Okay, I was wondering why the numbers were different. Okay. And those paraprofessionals are special education paraprofessionals or just paraprofessionals across the school?
All but 1 are special education.
Okay.
Any other questions?
I have more. So the ISS, you had mentioned that you staff it for Tuesday, Thursday. I had a question asked to me, so I'll ask it. If a child gets in trouble on a Thursday, do they wait till the following Tuesday to do an ISS?
That is correct.
Okay. It
That is
was,
what we've been doing for the past 2 years.
okay, I think it was confusing to parents to hear that a child would show back up in the classroom after maybe something happened the next day and wouldn't have ISS till days later. So that was a clarifying question.
That has worked for us. I would say the maximum number of students what we normally have in that space is 4. And so because you had an incident to occur and to have somebody with that person, there's only 1 child in there. And then some days it might be 0 children in there. It's not really a good use of our resources.
Right.
I mean, sometimes it is 1 person. It's just, that's how it falls, but the cadence of Tuesday, Thursday has worked.
The gifted and talented funding, the count went up significantly from 410 last year to, I believe we're budgeted 550 is the student count, which it looked like even at the beginning of the school year, we had more than 410 that was budgeted.
It's a lag data point.
But we don't get any additional funds if that number increases.
It's a lag year data point, and no, we do not get any additional funds if the number increases.
So that line item is like over $2 million for those individuals. So last year it had us budgeted for the school year at 410. I think last month you presented us 558.
Mm-hmm.
So
and so this year you saw, that's why you saw the large increase, because we had a large increase this year.
Do you expect another large increase on that, or do you expect that number to be?
I can't say. I don't know the numbers for gifted in the elementary space.
Is that projection built off of what's here or what's coming from other schools?
It's a lag year, so it's actually
Actual
using the number
this year.
that's currently right now from October to plan for next year.
So it's not based on what's coming in from 5th grade is what I was
It's a
asking.
lag year.
Okay.
So if we have 558 right now,
That's why you see 550 for next year.
Mhm.
And then whatever we have in October will be what you see on the FY27 budget. And again, October FTE.
The master teacher leaders, we're adding 1. Do those have supervisory roles? I know I asked this last time. It's half instruction in the classroom and half helping support teachers. Is that what it is?
That is correct.
Okay, is that a supervisor role or is that not a supervisor?
Even though they do not evaluate staff.
Okay. And they were added onto that communications chart as well.
Yes.
Correct. Those are the individuals. So I think it's important that parents know that position and how to use them, because I saw that those were added in. Now we're adding an additional one as a point of contact, because that was not
Not
the normal flow.
Because let's say it was added to, I'm going to answer that question, but I'm going to table any other conversations about the communication chart so we can get through the budget part. But that was added because let's say a parent emailed Mr. England and Mr. England hadn't responded and it's been like 3-4 days and they just wanted them to fill out a recommendation letter. But, well, you don't really necessarily have to tap an admin and pull an administrator out into that space. It could be Mr. England hit the flu last week, and so that's why 3 of the 4 days he hadn't responded, and then trying to get through the email is less aggressive to have, that person say, hey, the parents said they emailed you, maybe got lost in your emails, can you respond right quick, versus it being something that has disciplinary actions behind it. And if it is something that is needing administrative support for it, then that would fall under a different category and continue to follow the normal procedure where that is related. Or it could be Ms. Nolan did a project and I forgot where I go look to see when the project is due. Well, that person can find out and probably already knows when the project is due. And so they can give that response quickly.
I think I was looking at the presentation. I don't see some of the slides that I thought were there the other night. I looked at it.
Any more budget questions before we get to the Because you're gonna talk about the new communication thing.
It wasn't about that. It was about budget stuff. But it linked, I think it was a chart you had that was green and white that linked positions with courses. So one was science and the lottery. When do you talk about that? Lotteries, is that,
Course options?
was course offerings, is that later in the presentation? It was on the presentation that I thought we had linked to. Maybe it was just that one.
This was last meeting.
No, it wasn't that. Maybe it was that's, I don't remember where it was.
Advanced content.
It was,
slide 16.
so for science, I know we talked about this last year at the end of the year when I was just a community member. So for science for 6th grade, you've decided to stay with,
Yeah, that has
High
nothing to do with the school report.
oh, that's in the principal report.
Mhm.
Is it still in the principal's report?
Mhm.
Okay, then I'll ask it for it then.
Yeah.
Any other budget questions?
All right, and I just, I know there was some community concern, and so I just wanted to take a second to say that, I've talked to several people at the district level just to try to understand. And I think I can post the slides that I sent to the team. I hope, I sent some stuff today because I got it yesterday, just about, the allocations for, signature programming, just to make sure that everybody understood what those allocations look like. For our signature programming, it is $100 per student and instructor, or is it instructional coach?
Instructional coach.
Instructional coach, and then the fees. And because our fees are less than some of the other signature programming fees, that's why our numbers are lower there. So I wanted to point that out. There was another question that I got. I should have wrote these things down. I think that's fine. I know signature programming and that, how that happened was something that the community had some questions about.
The art teacher as well, is it staying 0.5 for the entire school?
It is not the art teacher.
I'm
It is
sorry.
a fine and performing art teacher. Yes, it will remain at 0.5 for that one reduction, which still leaves us with 4.5 FTEs for fine and performing arts.
Okay. Sorry, we don't have that split out, so it's hard to know what you can't see.
Thank you for pointing it out. Oh, the other thing was signature programming. It went down. The district-wide allocation went down from 18 million to about
15 million.
Yeah. So that is also another reason you're seeing that reduction in the signature programming funding, is because of that decrease. And it got pushed out to all of the schools.
Why did they go down?
Because we have a $100
$100 million
million
deficit
budget
that we're
deficit
trying
for
to
APS.
fund correct.
Yeah, so, and what I was told is that those monies are being held in reserve, and that, should there be the opportunity that there may be access during the school year, but you just can't count on it as you're going into the year, right?
Yeah.
Which makes a difference for Principal Hollis, but I wanted that information out there because I know it was a concern, and no matter how hard I tried, no one would give us extra. money,
Yeah.
so.
It is a revenue issue, so you can only predict about so much of the revenue fund. And you know, there's something going on currently with the state around homestead exemption and not charging as much for commercial property. And if those legislative pieces pass, then that does limit the revenue that goes to the school, because we do know a large amount of school funding comes from homestead exemption taxes, property taxes, and things like that. So what we did find out, and hopefully our community will leverage, is speaking to their state representatives around, you know, the impact of these decisions on schools and allowing more access to local revenue.
And so, thank you, Principal Hollis, for that reminding me about that. So what happens is the state has pushed down, and we voted on it. Y'all saw it in November, the homestead exemption change that we all voted on. It passed, so it is it's now pushing forward. And what it allows is for a different basis for the homestead exemption, which will lower projected revenues. And so that's for every government organization. It's my understanding APS is going to probably opt out of it, but
Yeah, I think they already did.
Yeah.
It already happened.
but
Yeah.
those are things that impact local revenue that as citizens and taxpayers, and that's a statewide thing. As citizens and taxpayers, we can be active and engaged about to make sure that we're having the least amount of impact on our local government agencies, including our school systems.
I think also to get on this topic, I think the concern is our millage rate, although they will say has not increased, our appraisals of our homes have increased. So we're all feeling it. And so we can say we have not increased the millage rate for 13 years, but we're still feeling an increase in paying taxes. And that's why every year they still have to come and present to us, and because it is increasing. So the flip side is our taxable digesters, they have the largest revenue they've had, and we shouldn't be this strapped as much as we are. So I'm just going to throw it out there that I know they're making cuts at central office. It did increase exponentially over the last couple years. In my conversations with both the CAT meetings and some others, as well as board members, I reached out, they are making cuts. If you have watched the meetings in the last month, if you've looked at the HR reports, they are making cuts. It's just how much are they going to make? And then it will be the next conversation, which is how are we going to handle small schools and consolidation and district lines and that kind of conversation, which will be the next additional year of challenging conversations and what are we going to do with that? But I suspect that next year is going to be even harder. And that's between the line, like reading the message between the lines for schools, because this stuff doesn't hit us.
I think
All these decisions don't hit us for a couple of years to make maybe some.
I think it'll be different, right? Once we find out what the facilities strategic plan will be, then we would know and possibly have increases in the number of students. It might not hit us at all. We don't know right now.
Right.
I do know that we already went into this budget cycle knowing that this year and next year's budget cycle would be harder.
Right.
And then if things work the way that projected they're supposed to work,
Right.
then there's supposed to be some other things that come into play that next year that will lessen the purse strings. But those are conversations for Lisa Brackett. I don't know the
The
specifics.
pension, the big pension will
Yes.
roll off,
Or
potentially closing, merging
the payment
schools.
of
Right, that pension
would
rolls
be done.
Right.
But I think
maybe some
to
tax
your
relief.
point, there are spaces where even if you don't want your millage rate to increase, there are spaces in commercial taxes
Right.
and sales taxes that is local revenue that is being kind of tempered, where residential taxes is still increasing. There are some holes that were put in place during COVID that are still in place for commercial properties that should possibly be released if we are releasing residential homes. Now, I'm not political or policymakers. I don't want to go down that rabbit hole, but there are spaces to engage in conversations with political leaders that vote, that are voted into these spaces to represent
So
everyone.
Erica Long is moving back to chief of policy. She was in policy, then she moved to, I think, chief of staff. She has a student at Mays, but she sits at the district level and runs the legislative session. We were talking about this before, about other things. Maybe we could invite her to do a conversation with the community, maybe outside of a GO-TEAM meeting, so people can talk and talk about some of these things. I know in the legislative session at the board, she has spoken extensively about this a couple times. So maybe that is an engagement session. Shalonda was speaking about that before on how to get parents more involved and community members and engaged. So there seems to be an interest from taxes to cell phones about legislation and everything in between. So I maybe we.
Yeah, and we can start having those conversations earlier in budget, right? So that folks know how to, in advance, advocate for the things that we need for our schools. So
She said she would be willing to if we wanted to. I reached out and said, is this something that you would ever do for a school? And she said yes. So there is, and they've offered that in meetings. They just had a legislative GO-TEAM session too, which was good. Were you on there too?
I've been on them before.
I don't know if anybody else attended the GO-TEAM one, but we could just.
They have
talk.
them quarterly or like really around when, you know, everyone's at the Golden Dome.
So it was good. But I think,
Yeah.
I think it'd be good. She's a great communicator and knowledgeable, has been in that space for as long as I know, so. So budget, so we need to motion for a vote on this, is that correct? Is that what you were?
That
looking
is
at?
correct.
I'll take a motion to approve. Second,
I'll second.
all those in favor? Any opposition? Thank you for putting together a masterful budget with what we have. I appreciate it.
And being thoughtful about it, yeah, Thank you. and patient.
All right,
I'll
now we
try.
are into discussion items. I'm sorry, information items. We just discussed the budget, so we'll move into the principal's report.
And I'll be quick, and I'm going to go ahead and pre-warn you that the data here might be lag data. Because I was interviewing today, so I did not get a chance to update certain data points. Registration is open for students that are currently enrolled in APS traditional or charter schools, i.e. our feeder elementary schools. Please register for next year so that we can get your schedules made. And registration opens up on June 1st to anyone. Mr. Brooks voted yes. It's
Oh,
in the
thank
chat.
you.
I'm sorry.
One more.
And registration is open on June 1st for any students outside of Atlanta Public Schools, i.e. private schools that are transferring into our school. And then those are the documents that are needed in order to be processed.
March 21st, is that right?
What says March 21st?
When you click that link, it says March 21st, registration opens at APS for all current APS.
Yeah, it's already open.
Yeah, it opened yesterday.
It opened actually last month, but we were not told it was open.
Oh,
Interesting, all right.
Y'all want me to go on video every time saying that. We figured it out and it is open. Advanced content for next year, and I did mention it in the principal's copy last month. All the days are running together. We are continuing with accelerated math 6, 7A, 7B8. So in both those grades, and algebra in 8th grade. We are continuing with physical science, high school in 8th grade, and earth systems in 6th grade. There is limited seating. We have already sent out letters to parents I was supposed to change that from saying lottery system to a random selection process. The ELA teacher is smiling because there's a nuance on words, but they did not want me to say lottery system. They would prefer me to say random selection process will be used. We are not doing any advanced content in social studies. We are doing world language as we have done for many years. It has the same process, but based on numbers that's selected, we did not have to put anyone into the random selection queue. And we are adding intro to software technology for 8th grade into the engineering class. It is a first course for many CTAE pathways that are held at Midtown.
Is that a high school
It
level?
is a high school credit. Yeah, the number of kids that wanted the course and what we can do is not, it was almost 60 kids that said that they wanted the class, and we can't accommodate that. So that will be another random selection process.
I added that.
May I ask a question on that last slide before we, no, not that one. So the random selection, is that for both physical science and earth science?
Yes. That's if needed. That doesn't mean that it will happen. It's just if we need it.
Okay, and then
Because
if,
they haven't taken the spring map, so we don't know the
For
final
physical-
numbers for either of those courses. So based on what we have built for master schedule for next year, if it goes beyond that capacity, then we have to employ random
Okay.
selection.
could or would you make those criteria easily available to find? So parents aren't searching and we're not playing the game we've played in the past. Does that make sense of where that, do we have,
That's a better
The
starting
entrance.
question.
sorry, I didn't realize I didn't ask for it this year. Do we have the entrance criteria from APS for physical science, earth science, and intro to software?
Intro to software, there isn't any criteria. The other two, it has not changed. The only thing that changed is the teacher and parent recommendation. So it's going to look more like math, where it's based on map reading, and the course grade.
Those are all set then?
That was in the letter that was sent to parents.
Okay.
We can possibly make it available on the website.
I think it would be good, just like Midtown has
Um,
like honors classes, it's 85 or above at this.
Midtown has more flexibility and fluidity to make those decisions. These are decided for us because they're high school courses
Right,
and we're not a high school. So
Right.
they had to give us permission to have those, and they have set those criteria.
I'm just talking about the wording being on a
Right,
website.
and so because it is not us that's setting the criteria, the wording is fluid or set to change depending on who's sitting in the seat. And so I have requested since October for the explicit language. And it just came to a point where I was like, please approve my letter because I would like to let my community know before they take this final test so that I am not in constant meetings when I'm supposed to be hiring teachers.
Okay. Is there a way we could help you?
I mean, you can ask,
Okay.
but I've asked.
I think we could ask to do that.
I do
So
know
as of
that
right
they
now,
are
there's-
trying to get it to a point based on the conversations that I've had, to where maybe it is being brought to board vote, maybe to make it more solidified to where it's not so fluid. That was kind of the proposal that was being suggested. I am not by any means saying that that is the plan as of March 11th, but when I had the conversation 2 weeks ago, that was what was being suggested.
Okay, I would think that would live maybe in a regulation, not a policy, but because it's a school thing. So are any of those, just to confirm, are any of those currently in the random selection, except that the intro to software is the only one that's in random selection right now, currently?
I can't say because we haven't gotten final data.
Oh, okay,
I can answer that at the next go team meeting, but
Okay.
right now, those courses need MAP scores,
MAP
which
data is
haven't
next week.
happened.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they go on for 2.5 weeks.
Yeah.
So I
Okay.
really won't be able to answer that question right now.
Okay, great. I think that's clear for everyone.
All right, we have new ELA standards. We did introduce this in the principals meeting. This QR and link will take you to a parent guide just to give you access to the information so that you are aware of the shifts in the standards. We're talking about, as opposed to having 3 different genres that you write from, narrative, informational, argumentative, now your writing should be a merge of all. I.e., an example that I gave would be a speech from President Obama where he's going to give you, he's going to explain what's going on with something. He's going to give you somebody's story to make it relatable to you. And then he's going to give you the pros and cons for it and give you the argument that he wants you to make in order to get you to side with him. So that's kind of how they want people to start learning how to write, which honestly, that's how we write anyway when you become an adult. So that is what the state is going to, and some other things. So you can look on there. I don't want to spend the time in ELA space as a non-ELA certified individual.
And they selected the new curriculum, correct?
They did, and it is HMH, and from my understanding, my staff is very much in support of that selection. Okay.
And that was,
You're on camera nodding.
and that was passed Monday at the board meeting.
And so we are supposed to have books before we leave for summer break.
Yeah, that's what I'm hearing too.
I think it's more realistic to have access to the digital version, but you know. This is the data I said is not necessarily current, but it's about right. When we check CCRPI attendance right now, this morning we were at 90%. I think the enrollment stays about the same. So I'm very excited about that because you can see it's like 3.4 percentage points higher than last year. And we're kind of trending between 89 and 90%. I think it depends on the day. Enrollment is kind of holding steady between 1080 and 1082. So, all right, no questions there. Disciplinary infractions. This is still holding steady around here. I have nothing to say.
I have a question for you. At the last meeting, it was Zoom, you mentioned, I think it was during the cell phone conversation, that you've rolled down level 1 incidences in 6th grade this year, or something along those lines. That something wasn't there for 6th graders last year, but now you've rolled it down for 6th grade this year.
So we normally 8th grade did the level 1 infractions, the love notices, but now whole school we've been doing love notices in 6th and 7th grade to kind of address level 1 infractions. That's what love stands for, level 1 infractions.
So it's just,
That kind of love.
so the
Actually,
infractions were
level
still,
1 violations.
so it was still, they were still able to get them. It's just now how you're managing them with these love notices.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So it's,
So that we're focused on alternatives to suspension, ensuring that teachers are thinking about how we are disciplining students, not necessarily not disciplining students, because if it's something egregious, it's still shows up in this chart.
Okay, so that was my question. So the incidences from last year to this year, how they were categorized is still similar, just the action of doing the love notices across all 3 grades.
The actions of the resolutions has changed, like how we address the infraction has
Okay.
changed.
Well, we're down.
We are down.
Yeah.
And I do want to comment at my staffing conference, I got a round of applause because when the profile of the principal was created, one of the big things that the community wanted is discipline to go down. And so the fact that evidenced here that that has occurred, I did get kudos for making that happen.
Good job. You and your wonderful team
My team is
of Mary
amazing.
staff.
Yes.
And just because I know there was some concern about this, this is where we publish the data with regard to incidents. We don't publish kids' names. We don't tell everybody every day. But if there's a community-wide concern, like when we got an alert about the online.
Yeah, if it's something egregious that affects all, then we give communication. If it is,
One grade level might also get just a notice.
if it is something that's egregious for that grade level, right? But what a parent may call egregious and what an educator may call egregious is not the same. I just want that to be said. No one is trying to hide anything. I published this discipline data and it is shown at every principal copy this year and at every go-team meeting. And so anytime anybody wants to go back and rewind or look at the slide decks, they're there, I promise.
I really like the
Nothing is being hidden.
transparency that you presented and the consistency. It's great
Thank you.
for multiple data points.
I try. You're doing great. So we just finished Right Score, or no, tomorrow's the last day.
Although they extended the window to Friday, but yeah.
I almost said, sorry. Tomorrow's the last day for Right Score narrative with hopes of getting the data back before the milestones so that students can kind of adjust their writing as needed and get feedback from those assessments before we get the summative assessment. I will say, even though I didn't spend time on there, the assessments will change next year. The big writing piece that I was just kind of describing will happen in 8th grade. 6th and 7th will be doing peer reviews. They will not be writing a complete essay for the assessment.
For the right score?
Or
for the
milestones
For the
next
milestone.
year.
Okay,
Oh, wow.
It's a big change.
that is a big change.
Is that because the ELA standards are, so that's all part of the ELA standards changing?
That is a part of, yes, not because they change, but the way that they package the standards and
Right.
how they want to assess it. So it's not because it's the first year, this is the 1-year thing. It's just the change.
Right.
You said Right Square is till Friday, Nolan?
Yes, we found out today that they've extended the window to Friday.
Oh, that's
That's
awesome.
lovely for you.
What does that mean when that window is that large? As a parent, does that mean they're just sitting in, okay. Devil's advocate, like, does that mean they're sitting in class for however many days
She
that is?
didn't answer
Just
that question
to-
specifically, but
Yeah.
typically
I
it
think that's
takes
what everyone's
about 3
fearful.
days to write the essay because it's 70 minutes. You gotta get them in class, get them on the website, then make sure everybody's settled. It's a testing environment, and then you start writing. So typically it takes about 3 days to finish the process. So it is not the whole time, but they give us a window such that if they're finishing a project or finishing something else, they don't have to stop because
Testing.
this is the only day that it's being given. And then we're able to kind of schedule it around whatever activities are currently happening in the ELA classroom. So no, the students are not, and the teachers are not torturing children, making them write for 2 weeks.
That'd be.
Right.
So math
As long as you
testing
give them
starts
feedback.
on Tuesday. There again, typically it takes about 3 days. Now we've gotten it to science since I've gotten here. So it typically takes 3 days to administer the math assessments, and then beyond there, we are pulling individual students. So the schedule is not adjusted for 2 weeks, and 2 weeks of instruction is not missed. So GAA is our summative assessment, or it's our Georgia Alternative Assessment. So that is for our kiddos that have intellectual disabilities, and that is so we can assess to make sure that they are learning. And then our windows for EOC, which is Algebra 1 just for us, and then milestones EOG. As you can see, it's an overlap, so it really doesn't matter. The first week and a half of that will be 8th grade. The first week is 6th grade. The second week is 7th grade.
8th graders will get it all done in 1 week.
Week and a half.
Week and a half. Okay.
You know, if you're like my 8th grader, you got 5 tests to take, so enjoy. Climate survey, last I checked, we were up to 127 responses, which is up from the last time I mentioned it.
I think it was put in the newsletter. We're trying.
I tried. I sent out the letter before all other feeder schools did, and then they said, "Oh, well, we got it from everybody else. You got mine first." But I sent it again. It closes at the end of this week. The climate survey results from last year were supposed to be published by the state Friday, but they postponed the release, so I'm not sure when that will be coming out, but I presume sometime soon because they were about to release them.
They were done last spring.
Mm-hmm.
And held until now.
Mm-hmm. They always are. It's always a year
I see.
because you're compiling. Back then, it was like 120 question survey for every child, secondary in state, and then I don't know how many questions it was for elementary, plus how many questions it was for parents, and then plus the 70-some questions for staff. This one may not take as long because it's much shorter. I am very happy about that they have condensed and consolidated that survey too, because it was a lot of questions before. Engagement initiatives, beginning of the year, it wasn't even the beginning, it was like October, we talked about safety and testing, specifically math. Because those initiatives were taken on by CAT, I did not move further with it. So what say you? How do you want me to proceed? I know the Erica Long might be a better use of our time, but what do y'all want to do?
I think a conversation from you on the topic is always preferred. I think we can do surface level stuff up here at the CAT for about the whole cluster, but I do think a conversation needs to be had on both of these topics. I think ongoing conversations and open door communication should. I don't know. We have 1 year of new math standards that have just came out, so maybe it's from that standpoint, like we've just flipped over, I guess this is year 2 of our new math standards.
We're finishing year 2.
We're finishing year 2. We're finishing year 1 of the Godot math. You've made some changes on testing, which I think is great from feedback. I don't actually know what all those are, but would love to know. We know that more changes might be coming from the district level, so maybe we're waiting for, I'll go into part of the CAT meeting, we're waiting for feedback about, so there is so when we're talking about budget, there is movement at the district level in terms of positions, and you can see those changing, titles changing, positions coming and going. And a lot has happened over the last 3 months that's publicly available on HR reports. With that, I think always comes changes. To your point, it is a lot. There's changes in every department. You can see them in HR, you can see them in communications, you can see a lot in academics. So some of these things around, this is all speculation around set markers or curriculum or testing, may be something now and be something different come this summer. I would hope there would be more stability going into next year, but I don't think we need to be, my point is, I don't think we need to be afraid of the conversation, just to say to the community, like, there is movement and there might be changes, and we're gonna get through this the best we can, and we're gonna hope for more stability, you know, next year. And I don't think we should be afraid to have the conversation. That's all I'm saying. Or like, what can we, at the end of this year, what can we do? What did you learn? How, where do you need help? Where do you not need help? What did you think? The adjustments, those kind of things, you know, maybe it's just in a different context.
Okay.
And maybe that's just part of a principals meeting, but it's an open just chat about it.
That's what I was gonna suggest.
Yeah.
It's maybe in the person.
I mean,
Like, we're
we
gonna-
normally talk about things like that, as the normal progression or cadence of the school year. I'm always open to any conversation. I think at the last principal's copy, I talked about how I've hired an hourly security guard to change that. I mean, so I do update
Yeah.
those things as they come up. I am on the testing advisory group with the district, that is supposed to be concluding soon and publishing said results. That's all I have. I don't.
Yeah.
So I sit on that as well on the other side, on the community side. It's been a lot of what would you like about a testament? A good testament should be built around this. What is your feedback on this comment? A test should provide the students' feedback. We want to be in their, you know, the statements, we want to be broad. And I'm like, but if you're broad, that can mean one thing to Principal Hollis, that can mean one thing to Miss Moore, and that can mean one thing to myself as a parent and another thing to a child. So that's the kind of conversations we're having. When we talked about ELA, I, you know, put in some let's talks from me, the ELA curriculum, that's why I pointed to Susie. I asked, what do the tests looks like with what do the testing look like options with these packages, curriculum packages? Because you would assume these curriculums come with testing packages. So that might give us a little foresight into what is going to happen next year with ELA testing. Because the testing, I believe right now, or that we were using, I don't actually know, is part of Amplify.
Yes.
So we would, like, even just
But
saying.
that is not always the case.
Right. So.
I want to say when we were using My Perspectives many moons ago, I didn't feel like the test came from there, but then I think those tests were school-based, and then the district was just doing the quarterly benchmarks. So knowing how the district is their stance or posture,
right,
as it relates to testing informs what we can do on our level. So seeing that we can do our own unit assessments is not enough information. It still is ambiguous to us, because if you say we can do our own unit assessments, but you know, I'm gonna start adding back in the benchmarks, then we have to adjust. So knowing what their posture is around assessments as a whole helps us. And as soon as I get that information, I always share it with our staff, and then the teacher leaders at the school and the administrative team make determinations of what's best for our students. But until we get a clear posture, we are still in limbo.
So as the CAT engagement committee person, I sent back the feedback we got on tests and assessments on the forum. Some of those district leaders sat into the live session or the virtual session that we had, that people gave feedback and took notes. We did ask for them to engage with us as a community, which Dr. Butler is the new chief of. I think they changed her title this past month to maybe academics. It's either teaching and learning or academics. believe it's chief of academics. She did respond back and say she would like to partner with us on that. So I just need to get with her on, is this going to be a district communication? Is this a small group communication? What is she willing to do and what information will they have? Because I would assume the cadence would come with us kind of down here.
Let me know.
I will.
What you need from me.
I will. And the engagement office, as well as Crystal, who came, has received that, and she's been great.
She's awesome.
She is.
So this is what we were talking about before. Again, this is, of course, not call first responders list anymore, but it's good enough. The content concerns is what we were specifically, I think it's teacher concerns now. And so we changed it to curricular concerns. So as we update those things and get feedback about what's working, what's not, since this is our first time giving this information, it will be a fluid document. And as things update, we update it to the website in all the places so that people know how to get in contact with people and are able to get responses quickly about any of their concerns. Because of that information that we have gotten, we launched last week the Parents Corner. And this is a lot for me because I am now trying to figure out, okay, what celebrations and things we celebrating every weekend. So yesterday's was supposed to be updated and went live yesterday, went live about 11:30 last night.
It was yesterday.
Thank you. This is the best I can do because I think that was the whole point of having the Rams report. But the feedback was they don't know where things are.
I think the Google Calendar is great.
Would it be helpful for
That's
parents to
helpful.
have this?
Like, is it something that the
'Cause I
PTO communications person?
I mean, it sounds like it could run
I
a whole lot
mean,
of.
only thing right now that we're updating is the bottom portion.
Yeah.
It is linked to the school calendar. I
Yeah.
promise you, everything's on the school calendar. Human error does occur, but for the most part, it's there.
Well, I just don't want you up at 11:30 at night.
Gold
Okay.
baseball defeated.
Parents,
Oh,
if at all possible.
But I think we'll see. It's new.
Okay, keep me posted.
I just think that
I'm sure
all
we can
these
do
things
it.
are on the website.
Redundant.
Literally, I'm linking it to links
yeah,
on the
it's
website.
Ray.
But
But everyone was saying
user-friendly.
that they didn't know where anything was, but it was all on the website. So it's fine. Now it's on the one sheeter. And hopefully that is decreasing some of the confusion. I work with the teacher leaders to come up with what do we want to put on here based on the feedback that was given from the parents. And this is what we collectively came up with.
Thank you all for
So, as we're steaming along, we had all of our projects for the science fair, the Metro Science Fair, to place first, second, or third in the Metro Science Fair. And a portion of the first place winners will move on to state competition. All three of our projects that we set to National History Day Metro competition have made it onto the state competition. Our students competed in all state chorus. Orchestras going to LGPE later this week. Chorus LGPE and band LGPE is the end of the month before spring break, maybe in 2 weeks, somewhere around it. It's this month.
You said
About
they're
that.
done by 3/21.
I think it's next
We're
week.
done by March 21st with all of the LGPE. So that's where we are. The math club has 3 students that's advancing to the Georgia State Math Counts competition.
And one of them is our spelling bee teacher.
And one of them is our spelling bee champion who went on to the state and placed 8th or 9th in the state. So, and it was like an all-day affair.
Amazing.
It was a lot of
There's a lot of
spelling.
spelling.
The floor is yours.
Cat, so we've done the engagement on testing and assessment, both districts. When you talk about map milestones, it was open to unit tests. That lives on the CAT website and you can rewatch that video. We also at the CAT meeting had a presentation about facilities. They presented a timeline that was different than the one at the board meeting in December. We provided feedback to that timeline at that meeting, and they presented a new presentation this past week on Monday at the board meeting. That's an update from the CAT meeting. So I will be posting out to the community the latest one. The CAT one is tentatively out of date. So
I think the cat one is just out of date. I don't think it's tentative.
So-
From my understanding.
So the concern was is that it did not align with facilities, potential closing, merging, rezoning lines. When they were going to vote on that was
It
this
didn't align
month.
the budget.
It didn't align. You would be creating budgets for schools that would potentially be changed zones. It didn't make sense. So we provided them that feedback. Also, to Principal Hollis's point is they did mention there are potential changing of charter, partner, and various schools under that umbrella that could impact Howard Middle School. So being thoughtful about admin transfers for the next couple of years was a concern that was brought up by me. Because if they are changing and closing partner charter schools, that may have an impact because we have a couple in our area. That was discussed. So by, I believe, May of 25, meaning in 2 months, they will be giving another presentation that will give an update on a timeline for facilities. So in short, facilities master plan for the whole district. From what I understand, they're procuring a new vendor to do a full facilities master plan, much like if you remember back years ago, Sizemore. I know, right? We're going right back to the drawing
Good old
board.
days.
From my understanding, the new deputy superintendent from Richmond County, Mr. Kenneth Bradshaw, will be leading that efforts. He has worked with Dr. Johnson before in Hamilton County, so they do have a relationship. And both of them have gone through facility master plans as superintendents. So there will be a cadence and an update that we will get more information about in May of 25. There could be changes as soon as, not this August, but August 26. And they're suggesting that it could be a multiple rollout over a course of multiple years. So this would not be all one solution, year one that hits everything, but changes could come as soon as August 26. So that's really important to let people know. And that as of now, they are signaling that we will hear the whole plan. It will be, if there is going to be a whole plan proposed, we would hear a whole plan proposal. It wouldn't be, we're just going to hear about year one and then vote, and then have the board vote on it year two, board vote on it. So the tentative timeline that they presented is first vote in November 25, second vote in November 25. So this next November and December, if there are any changes, they would go to the board for vote. First read November, second read December, if there are any changes.
And budgets come out in January.
And budgets come out in January. Okay, I think that's it. Facilities, we gave them feedback on that. We talked about the engagement. And then the superintendent talked about the budget, and he talked about we're going to have to make big decisions, multiple layers at different levels. They're wanting to decrease the layers and streamline things. And again, you can look at the HR reports that are available at the budget meetings. They are starting to work through central office. That's our community has relayed that central office is heavy. He gave the numbers of how much it has increased over the years. And so they are looking at that right now. They did school budgets first. Now, right now, they're drilling into central office budgets. So if you're watching, they're starting to present those at the board meetings, which are every month. Budget committee, Board of Education Budget Committee is also every month, usually the third Thursday. So that's really where you can learn a lot about things. I think that's it.
Thanks.
Mhm.
A lot.
I also, on the Facebook pages, I've listed, because these facility utilization reports started 3 years ago. So I've linked all of those. I've linked the meetings where they were presented. So if somebody wants that information, those are they're expanded from what they used to be. There is more transparency around it. So also just know that the utilization numbers include pre-K. Which is something new to our cluster. We didn't have pre-Ks and we now have them. Well, we had them,
We
they were
had
taken
them,
away,
yes.
and then now they're back.
Um,
Almost in every school except Morningside
But they're only the last
utilization report.
report has pre-K.
Pre-K,
numbers
yes,
in
sorry. So those adjustments. I think that's it. Oh, and then our two things were, I wrote those under the wrong thing, but our two priorities were engagement and STEAM and STEM, which, are you going to give an update on the status of our STEAM STEM at some point this year, where we are in the certification? Or next year, the beginning of next year?
I can invite our STEAM coach to the next meeting.
Where we are in the certification process?
I mean, the way that the state has adjusted the process, there is a 3-step process within the district before you start launching for the state.
Mhm.
And so we're moving through those phases.
Maybe they could just give us an update on that,
Yeah, that'll be fine.
the overview.
We are doing things, we're steaming more in some places than others. I think that what we're trying to work on that does tend to be more difficult to me in secondary space is communicating all the things that's happening at each grade level. So each grade level has its own PBL, each grade level has its own processes and things that they're working on. And it happens at different times in the year. Like 8th grade did some stuff about gardens at the beginning of the year. 7th grade is about to start actually planting plants in the class. They're doing gardening now. 6th grade is going to start doing some other things about composting and stuff like that. So it's happening at different times, but all of it is happening. All of it is going towards the same thing. It is trying to figure out how to help 100+ staff members retain what's happening in spaces that's not their own, so that you won't say it's not happening. Oh, but I didn't see it. So if I didn't see it, did the tree really fall in the forest? It's that kind of thing.
Google form.
Read it.
Any announcements?
I have no more.
All right, our next meeting is April 22nd, 2025 at 4:45, and that one is in person, and we will have public comment. And I will take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
all those in favor? Any opposed? All right, we are adjourned. It is 6:08.
Thank you.
Thank you, good people.
Seriously, I know, sorry, I have another meeting that started at 6.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah.
And just, if y'all can hear me, just to let y'all know, the House put a bunch of money into the state budget for education. So
Yeah. What happened? The House put a
it
bunch
still has
of
to
money
go
in.
through the Senate and be signed by the governor, but the House put a bunch of money in, so.
Oh, good. Today?
No, it was